Hi everybody, my name's Ollie. Welcome to another edition of The Watch Collector. Today's episode is going to be a little different to normal. We're not actually going to be looking at any watches in particular, so you may well be thinking to yourself, what on earth am I watching this for? Well, if you've seen any of the episodes previously, you'll have seen me review a number of different watches from a whole host of different brands. And you probably thought to yourself, who is this guy and what makes him qualified to be looking at these watches and why should we be listening to him at all? You may well still think that after this video, but what I wanted to do is just to kind of give you a bit of background about my journey through watches, how it started, where I am now, what path I've taken in the intervening years, just to kind of give you an idea of why I think what I think. And of course, this is all open to debate. I may well be wrong about whatever I say about watches. You may have a completely different opinion. Frankly, that's why we love the topic. So let's start from the very beginning. The very first watch that I had was of Swiss watchmaking was the Omega Seamaster 300 chronograph, which is the one I'm wearing right now. That was the one that I think so many people saw with GoldenEye. Admittedly, that was a 300M, not the chronograph. And they loved it. I fell in love with it when I was around 16 years old, and that was the one that I wanted as my first watch. And I was very fortunate that I was gifted it by my family when I was 25. I had a bit of a break from watches then. I was extremely happy with that particular piece and wore it non-stop for around 3 years. And then when I was 28, I bought an Omega Seamaster 600 Planet Ocean, orange, black dial, big, bulky, 46 mil I think, but had real presence. Love that watch. And again, I appreciated them. And I love the fact that that had a transparent case back compared to my chronograph Seamaster. But I didn't really get into the subject properly, probably for another 2 to 3 years. And that was when a very, very good friend of mine's father had always said, if you want a Rolex, come to me. He was in the jewelry business. He will do everything he could to help. Now, I should caveat this by saying this was before the bubble. So we are now talking about 5 to 6 years ago now. And it was the Hulk. And this, I think, typifies everything that watches are all about to me. And that's that connection, what that particular piece means to you, whether it's from a particular person or it's at a time in your life. And he helped me get that Hulk within 7 days. That's unthinkable in 2023. But he stayed true to his word, and it is still one of my favorite watches. So that was my first Rolex. My first Patek was a 5726A, and that came about a year or 2 years later after the Hulk. And I've been very, very fortunate to have developed an amazing relationship with Mappin & Webb on Regent Street. They're fantastic there, and they've helped me really build a pretty, I think, a very happy collection to have in terms of Rolex and Patek. But then it was in around 2018 when I started to discover the independent brands. The first one was HYT, and I don't know if some of you can identify with this, but I got myself to a point, I had multiple watches by this stage, and I started looking for different sectors to increase my collection. So for example, I really need something in titanium which has got a carbon-like coating with green. And that's precisely how I ended up stumbling across the HYT Skull 51mm. I'd never heard of HYT before, but I loved it as soon as I saw it in pictures. And I ended up inquiring with the limited edition about that particular watch. I continued on my journey with Rolex and Patek, as I still have today, but at the same time, I've also started to really explore the more independent brands, the more idiosyncratic brands, the chance to see things that you're just not going to see every other day. Chances are, if you get on the tube in London, you will see 101 Rolex, whether it's Submariners, whether it's GMT Master 2s, you're going to see hundreds of them. You're never going to see a Constantin Chaikin Joker. Simple. You're never going to see a Moser Steamliner, which was my third independent watch. Moving on, you'll have seen my other videos. I have a Czapek Antarctique in salmon. The idea really being that the respect for brands like Rolex and Patek, AP, Vacheron, even going up to others that have established themselves in the serious autorology segment, Jacob & Co. These brands are outstanding. But getting into the nitty-gritty and really looking at those smaller independent brands, where particularly if they're not so restrictive in terms of price, it's really fascinating for me. And if you've seen in the other videos, you'll have seen that we range from looking at a brand called Fears, which is around £2,000 to £3,000 price point, all the way up to Alchemists, which is 130 plus £1,000 plus VAT price point. So it's just so great to see what other brands are doing. And what I hope to give in these videos is a little bit of, I guess, my experience from having bought many watches from the large boutiques, the large retailers, and the experience you get from them, the experience you get from wearing a Rolex or a Patek Philippe, and then translating that to how that really works with, and it should work with. They're not really in competition. We're all lovers of horology here. That's why hopefully you're watching this video and I'm here to talk about it. They can work symbiotically. And they've got so many amazing brands out there. They're doing fantastic things. And ultimately, that's what I wanted to try and get across in this video. That's my journey from having gone from exclusively the large brands to those that are potentially up and coming, while still maintaining my relationship with those larger corporations, shall we say. And hopefully imparting kind of a little bit of that experience with you. And of course, open to discussion. You know, this is a democracy. It's not a dictatorship. I don't know everything. I may all be wrong on certain things. And we always love to encourage discussion and debate. And again, I think that's why we love watches. And that's why every year when the brands come up with new models, new concepts, we still get just as excited as we did when, for example, I first saw that Omega Seamaster when I was 16. So a little bit of a different episode, but just thought I'd give you a little bit of background about me, how I've kind of ended up in this situation of wanting to do these watch collector videos and sharing with you that experience. So guys, that's enough of me waffling on about me. We'll see you next time and we'll get back to the watches. Take care.